morning, beautiful people. Welcome to yet another episode of the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah Wachera. I hope you guys have woken up well and are excited to face your day. Yeah, for me, I have woken up very well and I'm very, very excited to actually start this day and to have the conversation we are having today. So as it is the norm here at the Younib Breakfast Show, let's go straight to the morning bite of the day. Today we're going to be speaking about youth and crime, and of late we've been seeing that there's a high rise of crime, mostly when it comes to our society today. We have petty crime, we have actually organized crime by so many young people, and today we are here to actually discuss this conversation, get to understand why people are opting to go to crime. And to help us discuss this, we have a familiar face that we have not seen this year, but we are so excited to actually have him back here in studio. So, karibu sana.
Thank you so much for having me.
How is your morning?
My morning is beautiful. Actually, it's a bit cold and dusty, but still beautiful. Waiting to see what you'll unravel.
Okay.
Along the day.
Okay, karibu sana. Feel at home as usual. Please kindly look at the camera and tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Younib, and I am a psychologist practicing. I'm licensed and registered by the Board of Kenya, and I hope to gain some light on the status of youth and crime and how we ought to navigate this matter.
Okay, so karibu sana. Remember, this show is proudly brought to you by Miss Yo Ashen and Younib organization, and we're trying to reach out to the community to teach on matters mental health. So if you know of somebody or you have an issue with your mental health, feel free to contact the number 0700-352-250. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer here or a conversation that you'd like us to speak about, you can always do that through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719-144-144. Let's dive into the conversation of the day. So, Dennis, we know that so many times you've been handling people who have been in crime due to the work you do, right? So what are the top 3 mental health issues that you have seen most people who are in youths mostly, who are in crime, mostly have?
Okay. So there are actually a number, but the ones that are most common, number 1, there's a lot of substance use disorders among people that it's youth in crime, and the problem is with crime, there is always a lifestyle that comes, or a lifestyle that people look for, and that lifestyle sometimes can be fueled by drugs or drug-induced behaviors, the party life and everything. So substance use disorders is actually common. There is also post-traumatic stress disorder or other trauma and stressor related disorders. This is because for youth in crime or for people who live a life of crime, it is a life that is usually characterized by a lot of traumatic experiences, and it's something that in as much as they do what they do, they're human. They have feelings, although they try to block them out. So you find that there is a sense of impulsivity that comes, aggression or hyperactivity, someone cannot stick to one place or something of that sort. So you find that with time, that can manifest. There are also disorders like conduct disorders, anxiety disorders. Someone who is involved in crime, sometimes they can find it difficult to stick to one place, because they're always on the edge. Someone is coming. They see everyone as either a suspect or a potential victim, You know, if I can't say rob you in the case of robbery, you're someone who can arrest me. So they're always on the edge. Therefore, anxiety disorders are also common with for people in crime. Also, if you look at depressive disorders, that is also something that is usually very rampant to them. This is because with crime comes a lot of isolation. You know, people isolate you out of fear. People isolate you out of stigma or labeling. You know, that one's a thief.
Yeah.
So what are you doing hanging out with a thief? You know, that is a criminal. What are you doing hanging out with them? Or fear. If I hang out with a criminal, someone I know killed 2 people yesterday, and I do something to make them mad, what happens? That is also something else that comes with. So you find that there's also a form of some depressive disorders that come about, you know, major depressive disorder and the like. So you find that it also does not really affect them alone. It affects also the people that are around with them. They're also prone to have similar disorders. You know, say for example, the wife of someone who's a criminal lives on the edge, you know, because he does not know the husband's movements. The husband can come today and then maybe he'll show up again next week or something of that sort. So you find that mental health disorders are things that affect not only the person who is engaging in the crime, but also their loved ones at large.
Okay, interesting. I've heard you speaking about trauma, and I'd like to know, how does trauma experiences really contribute in matters criminal behavior in young people?
So traumatic experiences, what normally happens is they can contribute to the onset of criminal behavior, and they can also contribute to the propagation of criminal behavior. For example, look at something like a family setup where there is a system of abuse, you know, or other stresses like poverty and the like. You find that there is a pressure normally or usually internal for, if you look at the system of abuse, for example, there's a pressure, there's that compulsion to belong to a certain group. And because you cannot belong to your family, since the family is not really welcoming, you go there trying to chase a clique that will accept you. Because you see, one of the needs that we find in it is acceptance. We all want to be accepted by one group or another. So if he cannot be accepted at home, this person will look for a group, or will look for a particular set of people that will accept him or her. You see, and a lot of youth in crime stories begin with the relationships people have. I was your friend, we used to hang out together, and then you're in crime, I'm not. The next time you'll be going in one of your missions, what will happen is you'll tag me along, because after all, I can't go home. What do I have to do? So you'll tag me along, right? So if you tag me along, what we'll end up doing is I may not participate in your crime, but because I've seen you do it, and this is a way of getting a quick fix, and we have some form of loyalty, I feel indebted to you. So I'll end up the next, or in subsequent missions, I'll end up being part and parcel of whatever you're doing. If you look at poverty, the thing is there's a lot of poverty in low-income neighborhoods. And what happens is poverty makes people mature faster than they actually should. You know, people start being told, you hear in an 11-year-old being told, wewe ni mtu mzima sasa. You can go and fend for yourself, someone who is supposed to be in school, you see. So you find that this person, because of that pressure to go and fend for themselves and their family, they end up getting into crime. Okay. Okay. Another thing is look at also a system where this is the only environment that these people have seen. Say, for instance, your friend was in crime. This person died, owing, say, to a shootout or something, or a mob lynching or something of that sort. So you find that that event in itself is traumatic. That's a loss. And someone else can also opt to get into that from a point of vengeance. That I have a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, a parent who was killed by a particular neighborhood, by particular members of law enforcement, because of crime. So what I'll do is, for me to want to revenge, I'll have to get into the same life so as to settle this cause. Therefore, trauma manifests in very many different ways, and it ends up destroying this person because it changes how they think.
So I hope all of us are following up with this conversation, and I hope you're getting to learn more about youth and crime, and also to understand, because now we have been able to know why some people may engage themselves to crime simply because of the traumatic events that have happened in their life. So as we think about that, I want us to take a short break, and we'll be back with more. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Never the best. Hallelujah.
Welcome back. This is still the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah Wachera, and today we're speaking about youth and crime. Remember, you can always interact with us through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. Remember that this show is proudly brought to you by Miss Yo Ashan and Younib Organization, and we are trying to reach out to the community to give you information on matters mental health. So if you know anybody who needs assistance with their mental health, you can always tell them to call the number 0700 352 250, and our own psychologists will be able to help them out for free. Yeah. So today, as we are speaking about youth and crime, before the break, we've been told about the traumatic events and some of the mental health disorders or mental health issues that most people involved with crime usually have. Yeah. So coming back, I'd like to know what is the experience, or what how does the experience of being arrested? Because you see, even of late, we've seen a lot of youths being arrested, mostly because of the maandamano and very many different things. Others because of maybe petty theft and all that. Sindio. So how does the experience of being arrested really impact a young person's mental health and development?
Okay. You see, first of all, the experience of being arrested. There's being arrested and then there's being wrongfully arrested. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
So you find that, like right now, what is happening is there was recently, I think a few months back, there was a wave of abductions that was going on, and it was going on among the young people, right? So first thing is it creates a state of fear and mistrust. You know, the thing with law enforcement is they're supposed to enforce law. That is their basic mandate. So you find that for you to be there and you hear that young people are disappearing, young people are being arrested wrongfully. What happens? Yet you have a member of law enforcement that that works with the people that are said to be enacting the same. You'll see what usually happens is there will be a state of mistrust. And the problem is the mistrust goes to the entire body of law enforcement. There won't be a good cop, bad cop situation. So long as you see a member of law enforcement, you'll be seeing someone who is a potential, you'll be seeing yourself as a potential suspect, you see. So what will happen is there's an erosion of trust. So what happens if something happens in your community and those are the people you'd want to report to? There are no reportings, you see, because of deterioration of relationships that come as a result of that. Secondly, you find that when arrests happen, especially if it happens with subsequent arrests, there is an internalization of identities that come. Let's say, for example, you're arrested because you happened to be in a group of people that did something. And then you go and then you leave. The next time you'll see an officer, you'll turn and go the other way, probably running. Because at the back of your mind, you've already internalized an identity that is not yours. You can never really go and say, habari yako afande. Because habari yako afande may result in them giving you free accommodation in their guest rooms. So it also makes someone to internalize identities that are not theirs, and it makes someone also be able to live those identities. Wamenishika, wamesema mimi ni mwizi. Why don't I prove them right? Because after all, that's what I believe. Well, that's what they believe. So it shapes a lot, and especially in how we perceive them and how we perceive ourselves.
And it's actually sad because we expect for us to see the lawmakers being people to enforce and to protect us. And it's so bad to see that now the name is really tainted to the fact that once I see a police officer, I'm always like, should I even go the same side with them? So I think it's something that the government should actually start looking into, because most youths, yes, they are good, but because even though you're dressed in a way that police may think you are a suspect, they will just take you as a suspect, in which is a wrong thing. So it's about time that this needs to stop here, and I hope it will in the future. Anyway, so coming back to our conversation, we are speaking about youth and crime, yeah? So if I'm a parent, if I'm a teacher, if I'm a family member, because also crime is something that is part of a family, because for the people to come from, you've already explained actually that sometimes the trauma from home can make somebody to go to crime, yeah? So how can one say that this person, okay, the warning signs that they can check on when they say, okay, this person, sahi kuna venye, this person now is going to crime?
Okay. One thing, and it's quite unfortunate that this happens, especially in our current world, is people are not so keen on behavior. We have parents, we have family systems that are not so keen on their own family members. They cannot really detect changes in behavior. you know. And I think even the previous times that I've been here, I'm always a big advocate of, if you ever notice a change in behavior, sudden, drastic, there is something. If you've ever seen a child that was always active start to become withdrawn, start to become quiet, doesn't want to talk about things, and he was very expressive in the past, that's a cause for alarm. If you see someone who starts to segregate themselves, or segregate a certain, or keep a certain company, and this company is, say, truant, watu hawaendi shule, or something of that sort, that's cause for alarm. Because as I've said, if I am keeping company with someone who's doing it, I'll start doing it out of loyalty to that person. Okay, it's not that I have any interest in particular with whatever is being done, or I may start doing it out of the perception of a good life, that I see you as my friend doing it, So the company this child chooses to keep, if it changes, if it's of non-truants with that community, if it's of people who keep a particular behavior set, that can also be a risk factor. Number 3, academics. Dropouts become rampant. There are students who leave home every morning but never show up to school. You go ask the teacher, and then the teacher tells you hajakuwa hapa tangu last week. And he leaves home every morning with clean uniform and a school bag. You see, so dropouts, academic changes, the change in academic performance, change in school attendance. Is this person really concentrating on their classwork, and so on and so forth? Those are also things to point out. They can point out there's a problem here, come and check. Okay. Also, you can notice a growing fascination, especially in lifestyle and lifestyle changes, because after all, these are children. So what usually happens is, if you find, say, an 11-year-old with a smartphone, and you, the parent, know very well that you're not the one who acquired that phone. Are you really curious in wanting to know where an 11-year-old can get a smartphone from? Yeah, this is a child in school. If you see this person doing things that are beyond your financial scope, are you really curious in wanting to know where this person is getting it from? Especially with boys. With boys, it can point to criminal behavior. With girls, it can point to unwanted sexual activities. To put it to phrase it well for TV, it can point to that. So at the end of the day, when we notice changes, and now this is the problem we have, we never notice those changes. Because what time does the parent who is at work at 5, leaves work, gets home by 10, when that kid is asleep, what time does the parent have to look after the kid? See, that is now where the problem is. So there are so many factors, and someone does not really wake up today and decide to do a life of crime. It happens gradually. It happens slowly. And as it happens slowly, the more they have, or the more they face positive reinforcement, or the more they lack to face negative reinforcement, the more that behavior is repeated until it gets to a point it becomes a habit.
Okay, and it's very funny because you've been mentioning about parents following up with their kids. It's something that even in our previous shows we've been trying to enforce or to tell people more about it, because now we've seen a lot of parents are leaving the work to the teachers, and it should be all-sided. Like a parent is the one who should follow up to the child and see this child is going through this and this and this stress. And if they don't see it, and most of the parents now don't really see it because they don't create time for their children. So it's up to the parents actually to ensure that they create time to spend with their children so that they can be able to see all this. And without that, we'll find a lot of children actually getting to different problems when it comes to their mental health, simply because they don't have any person to look up to or to talk to. So with that, I want us to take this short break and we'll be back with more.
Ever the best. Hallelujah.
Welcome back. This is still the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah, Wachera, and I hope you guys are getting to learn a lot when it comes to youth and crime, and that now we will be more responsible, mostly for the parents, to actually look after our own kids and see what they are doing so that we can be able to check the warning signs that we've just been mentioned in our previous segment here. So remember, you can always interact with us through our social media platforms, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. So Dennis, what is the long-term effect of young people really being involved in crime?
Okay, some of the long-term effects of young people being involved in crime is, number one, they never really get to fulfill that stereotype that comes with criminal behavior. You know, crime is viewed as an easy way, a quick fix, as an easy way to get money. You know, but the thing with crime and criminal activity is it leaves you yearning for more. It doesn't really have that sense of satisfaction that comes with doing that. You know, if you do a score today and say find 1,000, tomorrow you'll go look for 2,000. You see, and it creates it creates more or less of a cycle. So there's nothing important you can do with your life. Okay. Number two, it brandishes an identity. Criminal, robber, you do mugging, it brandishes an identity. And the thing with identities is they become generalized, such that you cannot really get out of that identity. You know, fulani ni mwizi. So if people are actually describing thieves, you're the person that comes to mind. You see? And that also becomes difficult. those identities are difficult to wash away because, say you want to turn over your life. How do you start convincing people who've known you for the better part of their life as being a thief that you're not? You see? So also another challenge is it ends up with stigma. People don't want to associate with you because they fear if they sit there next to you with their phone, they might live without the phone. If they sit there next to you and you're someone who does violent crime, for example, and your mood is not predictable, they may end up losing their lives. So they live in a perpetual state of fear where they do not really know how to behave around you. So what's the point of sticking around someone who you cannot be free with? So they'd rather not. So at the end of the day, these people really live very solitary and alone lives. They cannot really sit down with people and have a heart-to-heart conversation on what is bothering them. So that also leads to some mental health issues, because they don't have really a supportive system. I've never had a support group for thieves. After all, they can't trust each other. So there are so many long-term effects that can come as a result. That is to the individual. Also look at now the family at large. Again, stigma comes in. The family also live in a perpetual state of fear. They don't know whether their son or their daughter will come back alive. They don't know whether they'll be called to be told, come and pick your son at this police station or come and identify his body. They don't know that. So they live in a perpetual state of fear. There are also people who are disowned by their own families because of crime and criminal activity. And also look at the effects that now come as a result of the chain reaction. You got into crime, you got out of school. What happens to your educational life? That stops. You see? So at the end of the day, even if you're to get back that life of from that life of crime, what will happen is you will not have an opportunity, the same opportunity with someone who finished his education, and that will not guarantee you the same quality of life. So it's a good number of long-term effects, and they not only affect the individual but also the environment around them.
Okay. You've mentioned about somebody who is trying to actually make their life differently, and it has reminded me that there are some of the people who have gone through crime, they've been arrested, they have served their sentence, and now going back to the community becomes an issue. So can you help somebody who is maybe outside there, served the sentence, is really ready to actually go back to the community and also do good? How can they be able to do that?
You see, first of all, actually, the same way it took the environment to make a criminal, it also takes the environment to reintegrate someone who is willing to change. It takes the whole community. It's not just something that people will sit down and accept you. Because there are already perceptions that are formed. And those perceptions are those of mistrust, fear, anxiety. The fact that people don't know how to behave around you. That's already a perception that has been formed. So you find that also with that community, there needs to be a set of actors that can come together and ensure that the environment is safe. Foster that community of trust. Welcome them. That is why you find out that a good number of people, this is one thing the church has done really well, a good number of people who were in crime usually turn out to be very influential figures in church, because that is one thing the church has done well. it has been able to foster an environment where there's that trust, where I can welcome you back and be able to mentor you, guide you to being someone in the society. So you find that it's all about the creation of the environment and breaking of stereotypes. One of the stereotypes is that people don't change, which people have the capacity to change, so long as they have the environment that is conducive and they have people that are willing to support. Again, there's also need for creation of support systems. If you have support groups where people can just sit down and talk, just have a conversation, of how that life was and how it affected them and how they can get linkage to better opportunities, that can also be something that is worth pursuing and something that can really drive positive change and sustainable change within this person.
Okay, so as we conclude, you've spoken about environment, and we've seen, as you've been speaking, how the environment really affects matters, youths, and crime. Yeah. So I'd like you to help us actually understand why it is in community that will be able to
important in integrating these people back and in quashing the perceptions they have of the various agencies that work in place. Also, alternative employment, finding something alternative for them to do is also important. And again, that's where the community comes in volunteering opportunities and giving these people spaces where they can learn skills and grow. Remember, as I said, one of the problems that comes in is the academic life is affected, and once they're out there, they need something that they can attach to so that they can learn, they can be able to earn so that they do not end up going back. So the community can really play a big part in reducing the rate of recidivism among the people in their own community, by creating environments that foster trust and break off the stereotypes and negative perceptions that they have of other people or agencies that work in that same community.
Okay, thank you so much for coming and helping us learn more about youth and crime. And I hope that whatever we've learned today, we'll be able to actually mostly use it and see how we can be able to also be the right people to make the change. Yeah, we're told that change doesn't come overnight. Mm-hmm. It is a gradual thing. And I'm hoping that we'll be the people to begin with the change, to be the people to foster, even to stop the stigma when it comes to those people who are trying to actually change for the good and try to also get integrated to the community. So asante sana.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome again and again and again. Feel free.
I'll always make time.
Okay.
So long as I'm required to be here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you also to everyone who has made this show a success. Thank you so much to our camera person who has been Daniel Waweru, and also our timekeeper today has been Rose Shege, asanteni sana, and to our director who has been Benjamin Simiu. Thank you so much for making this show a success. And to you, our viewers, remember to share this conversation actually to somebody who needs it so that they can be able to get informed and also learn much better. Remember, this show is proudly brought to you by Mr. Ashan, and feel free, and the Younib organization, and feel free to actually interact with us and also speak or ask questions or even be able to seek professional advice from our very own therapist here at Younib organization, where they will be able to help you out if you know you have the issue when it comes to youth and crime. Feel free to call the number 0700-352-250 and they will be able to help you out here. Until next time, do have a beautiful day ahead. Goodbye.